So I'm making this video, my suit's all messed up. I'm making this video as a super raw cut video that I'm gonna upload to YouTube, and I never do videos like this anymore, but I decided, you know what, on my way home today, I'm gonna make this video, and whoever watches it, maybe it gets 2 views, I don't really care. Somebody will get something from it. And I wanna talk about what it's actually taken to get my company from $0, I was literally like 3 years ago super broke, to getting it to over $1.8 million in revenue. And that was in a few years, and I want to talk about that. Now, to some of you watching this, that number is big. To me, that number is actually kind of embarrassingly small, and that's kind of how my brain works as you get to know me as a person. Is I'm kind of hard on myself by nature, but I've learned to kind of get older in the head and kind of say, hey Dylan, you're doing good for your age, you know, and that's a healthy thing, I guess, right? But in my brain, I'm so behind, and that's actually maybe the weird psychology to why I grow fast, because I always feel like I'm behind somehow, which I can talk about that in another video. But what has it really taken to, let's just say, $1 million, okay? So I remember when I first started my business, you know, it was a completely done for you operation, meaning, you know, we would show up to life insurance agents' offices and we would literally film content of them. You know, like that was like my passion. I found a lot of passion in picking up a camera, going to people's offices in San Diego, which right now I'm in San Diego. That's where I live. And I would film insurance agents. And what I would do for them is I would position them in a way that was very nice, right? Like we got the camera quality dialed in. We had the best cameras. I spent thousands of dollars investing into equipment and things like this because it was my passion. Like I loved to film. I loved to create content. I loved the idea of inspiring people. That was actually one of my core drivers to this business that I'm now in, right? Which, for those of you guys that don't know me, you know, my company helps life insurance agents recruit qualified people to their insurance agency using their Instagram and running Facebook advertising. So we actually evolved to helping insurance agents install infrastructure now. So that way they get their money back with us and they earn cash, right? So with that all being said, it started off as just video content and just branding, making content of agents. And I remember that wasn't enough, you know, like the content alone, when I started to get more clients, just was not enough. Like the clients would come to me, the insurance agents, and they wanted money. They wanted money. It's not content. They didn't care about the editing style. They didn't care about the camera quality. They wanted money. And if you don't get them money, then they didn't stay as clients. And so that was a big problem I ran into. And so what I found myself doing, I remember I was in the military. I was working in the Marine Corps, and I was getting paid about $6,000 per month. And I had a few more months left on my contract in the military, like literally like 6 more months. And I was doing the things in the military that they were like basically saying, Dylan, you got to prepare for your way out, man. Like you're about to enter the real world, you know? And you're either going to go to college, you got to get a job, you got to do something. And I remember I was really considering just getting a job because I was fearful of being a business owner. Very, very, very afraid. I thought I was going to fail. I had never lived on my own. I had a mortgage. At 23 years old, I bought my house out here in San Diego. I saved up all my money in the Marine Corps and I bought a house. So I had a mortgage, I had these responsibilities, I had a dog, I was married, all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm basically a provider and I didn't have any support. And so during that season, I had to make a choice to either make a job resume and go get a job or be a business owner and sell to insurance agents. And I decided to basically venture out and go into my own thing and start my own business. And it wasn't just this simple little decision I made. I prayed about it for so long. I was back and forth. I was losing sleep over it. And finally I said, can I actually imagine myself getting a job? And I said, no, I can't. And so to be honest, I look back at those days and I truly just had faith in the process, even though I couldn't understand how it was going to happen. I just had felt God was telling me to like step into it, you know? And so I did. I stepped into it. And I remember the day I got my EAS contract, which is basically the piece of paper they give you in the Marine Corps when you're about to get out. I closed 3 clients in one single day. It was so crazy. And each client was worth about $4K a month. And I was making $12K a month off of 3 people. Mind you, I'd never made more than $8,000 in my entire life. I'd never made more than $6,000 in my entire life. And all of a sudden, I was a one-man show, no employees, like 4 or 5 people, 6 people or something like that, clients. And I was making almost 20 grand a month, recurring. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is wild. And I remember, at that time in my life, I went to like a little restaurant, and I remember I was buying food, and I just got something small, I got like a drink, and I got like some chips, and I was just like celebrating the win, But, looking back at that, I bring all this up to say this: faith. You probably weren't expecting me to say that. But to get to 7 figures in a few years required faith. That's number one. Like, I wouldn't have gotten that without my faith in God. Faith in myself even, Because, when you're growing something from nothing and you have no blueprint to follow, there's a lot of days where you're just like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to pull this off? What do I do next? The rejections and the chargebacks and the difficult moments and the moments you're overthinking, you got to like have something really deep in you that like doesn't shake you when the storms come. And that for me was faith. Because every time the storms came, and there was a lot, that faith is what really kept me rooted, man. It's what kept me right there. Okay, so faith is one. Next thing you gotta have is the ability to sell people. Okay, that's probably the most important thing that you need to know how to do. And so I remember I didn't know how to sell people. In fact, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around sales. I was not a born closer at all. I was not a natural closer at all. I had every single limiting belief you could possibly imagine about sales. I mean, think of any fear. I had it, straight up. And what really enabled me to overcome this, I remember my early career in sales when I was selling these packages online with my company for, I think our most expensive package was like $16K or something, $18,000, whatever at the time. I remember I would get in this actual car that I'm in right now. I would play super loud music, and I would like drive fast, and I would like almost put myself in a trance because I wanted to immediately drive into my house, jump on the Zoom call, and have the right energy to close the person that I was getting on a Zoom call with, because I had that much fear of rejection. I had that much fear of sales. I had to get myself in a literal trance state mentally and like brainwash myself to sit there and just get rejected or whatever was going to happen on that call. And that's really, when I look back, that's what taught me about energy in sales. Your energy has a lot to do with your ability to close. I'm personally a big believer in that. Some guys in sales that have done a lot more in sales than me, or maybe the same amount as me, they say different things. They say, oh, no, it's not all about energy. A basic person with a monotone voice can transact. I agree. I do agree to that. But I'm speaking off of my own experience. This is what I did. This is what I learned. This is how I got my success. And so everyone's just going to give you their success based off of what they did to win. That's another big piece of wisdom you can take from my video right now. Any coach you pay, anything like that, right? So you got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to handle objections. You got to know how to ask the right questions. You got to know how to probe people's pain points and stuff like that, right? And so, I paid $15,000 when I was working at my job, 15 grand, and that was a lot of money to me at the time. I was scared out of my mind on that investment to learn how to sell. And learning how to sell, it paid off. I dropped $15,000 on my sales coach, and he taught me literally one-on-one how to sell. He would audit my calls, he would review what I was doing, he would teach me objection handling. He'd say, why the hell are you saying that? Dylan, why are you veering off the script? All this kind of stuff. And it taught me the importance of following a proven framework in sales. Like, you should have a script that's very proven. And handling objections is a literal requirement. Like, it's not an option. You have to handle people's objections. Like, it's going to happen no matter what. And so, getting the repetitions and over and over and over and over again was really what helped me there. And, I learned how to sell. I took hundreds of sales calls first couple years of my company. Hundreds, literally, so many repetitions. And I got rejected a million freaking times. And I got to sell to so many different ethnicities of insurance agents. I got to sell to big insurance agents. I got to sell to little ones. And most business owners, they just hire closers like really fast. That wasn't me at all. It took me a while to let go of sales calls. I was taking sales calls for years, dude. 8 a day, 6 a day, back to back. I was like always taking sales calls, dude. And I became an excellent closer. Like to be honest, I view myself as like a master almost at sales. I still think there's things I can do better. But I've taken a lot of repetitions in sales, high ticket sales, and so that gave me that skill set, so that's something you have to learn how to do really well is sell. Okay. Now, the next thing you got to learn is operations, right? Like when you sell somebody, it's like, okay, what do I do now? Well, you have to have processes to get somebody an outcome that they're paying you for. So like when you go to a fast food restaurant, you already know in your brain, like, okay, I'm going to go buy a burger. That place has the burger process dialed. It's like, boom, you click a button, boom, it gets shipped over to another digital computer where a worker sees what you ordered. Okay, and then like he knows exactly what to put on that burger based off of what you selected. He knows exactly where everything's at. He puts the burger there, he wraps it in a little triangle, boom, puts it in the bag, puts a napkin in there, 2 napkins actually, boom, closes the bag, gives you the bag, done. It's a system, it's systematic. And every single business has to be systematic. And if you don't have systems, then you don't have a business, okay? And so not only did I have to learn systems and operations, I also had to learn how to build systems and operations that not only I could follow. That's the key. Okay, so I remember at first I really struggled with this. I built systems that only I could understand. And so when I would hire somebody to run my systems, they'd be like, what is this? And what is that? And how does that work? And why is this like this? And what does that word mean? And why'd you make this like this? And when I went like that, is this where I go? And so that's when I was like, dude, these systems, like as good as I thought they were, because I was able to run the system, my team can't do it. My team can't use my systems. It doesn't even make sense to them. That took a long time to learn. I had to find a way to build systems that were duplicatable, repeatable, and understandable to where literally anybody with a pulse could go in there and just make a burger in my company, basically. It's another thing I had to learn, okay? Something you have to learn if you want to build a $1 million operation. All right. Now, the most important thing that I learned, I think I learned this one probably midway through my career, was marketing. Marketing, okay? I remember I was so afraid to market, believe it or not. And funny, my business does marketing. Like that's what we are. We're a marketing company. But I was definitely afraid to run my own ads. I couldn't imagine me Dylan Matthew Saldivar, coming from a poor household, broke, scarcity mindsets. Literally, bro, like looking back at my household, man, like, my family was telling me to turn off the lights because we couldn't afford extra light bills. Like as soon as you had to, that's literally what I grew up in, dude. Like we were poor. And I had a scarcity mindset. And I was like trying to imagine myself spending $1,000 every month on ads, like $33 every day leaving my bank account. And I was so afraid, dude. I was so afraid. And I remember what got me to do it finally. I had hired a media buyer, and he was this white label guy, and he would run all the clients' ads, and he would run my ads. I was having him do it. And then eventually his ad account got banned. And he's like, Dylan, I literally can't run ads for you, for nobody, bro. That's it. I'm like, can you do this? Nope, can't do that. I was like, can you do this? Nope, can't do that either. It's up to you, man. You gotta run these ads. I was forced into running ads. And I remember I was so freaking scared, man. I was like, dude, no way, I gotta run ads right now. I literally gotta take somebody's money and be a manager of their money and turn it into more money. And then I had to do it to my company. And I did. And I remember I was so afraid. And I remember when I was spending the money every day, I remember I got my very first lead when I was at the gym early in the morning. It was like 5 a.m. I had scheduled the ads for the night prior. I woke up, I was at the gym like lifting weights, and I get my first lead. I saw a lead come through. And I remember I was so hyped up. I was so excited about that lead. It's crazy. I'll never forget. Like, and your first lead, man, like from your dollars, like from your face, from your ads, it just hits different. Because then you have a million more after that, and then you're just like, whatever. But you have to get that lead fast, right? So I remember I saw that lead, And I remember, to describe it, I was like a lion, and I was just thrown like a piece of meat, and I was starving, and I saw that lead as a piece of meat, man, and I was just like, like I had to devour that thing, dude. And I got another lead. I saw it as another piece of meat. I got another lead. I saw it as another piece of meat. And I was just dialing those leads, bro. And because I had my back against the wall, I was like, dude, I don't have the money to lose here. I have to sell. I have to make this freaking work. Back against the wall energy. And I remember I was closing so many people. I think literally 3 months after running my own ads for my company. This was years ago now. I remember I was making about, $14K a month or whatever. And then we literally just piked up to like $80,000 a month. $80,000 a month from 14K a month. Off of just like $1,000 a month in ads. Like, I was an animal. I literally just was getting the leads. I was calling, I was drilling them, I was getting on the sales calls, I was getting them on the sales calls, I was selling them. And I see this money coming in my bank, and I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. Like, ads is crazy. Like, if you learn how to do this, dude, I was 23 making 80 racks a month. Like, it was crazy. Mind you, a year prior to that, I was broke. I was poor. So I'm seeing money enter my bank. And I'm like, dude, this is nuts. And I remember my coach was like, dude, like, you got to put more money in this thing. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I was like, bro, I'm not putting no more money in that thing. That's literally how my brain was, because I was so afraid to spend more money, dude. I had a scarcity mindset. And eventually that $1,000 a month, I remember I thought it was always going to just bring me 80K a month. Like, that was my brain. I was like, oh, dude, I'm always going to make 80K a month. No. That's when I learned about ad fatigue. And that's when I learned that $1,000 a month that you spend, Meta's going to send you some killers in the beginning, and then you get ad fatigue, or, your lead quality drops or whatever. And then my coach was like, dude, you got to report your numbers. You got to know your numbers in your marketing, A to Z. Show rates, close rates, quality percentage, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, God damn, I don't want to do that. But I had to. He would get mad at my coach would literally get mad at me if I did not fill out my dashboard. And so I was like, all right, whatever, I'm going to be a good mentee. I'm going to fill this thing out. I'm going to get it done. And by doing that, I was able to learn these numbers and what the numbers meant and what to do if your numbers were low. And so, by looking at that, it started to make more sense. Like, hey, okay, I should put more money into this, right? And so finally, I started putting more money into ads. And we were bobbing around, from like, 14K a month, 30K a month, 12K a month, 50K a month. We were just bobbing all over the place. And then I'll never forget the day I landed a Goliath, man. Like, it was a huge, huge, huge deal. And I was able to land a really big, I call them whales. It was a whale client. A whale is like gigantic fish, And that guy basically paid for a bunch of his people to work with me, and it was like a $200,000 plus deal. And I saw so much money come in my bank all at once in one day. It was insane. It was literally over a $200,000 day. And I remember I was on that Zoom, bro, and I cried. Like, this was like, about 2.5, 3 years into my career. And I remember I was like, dude, that's wild. And the profit margin was just like so high off of that. Like, it was crazy. I offered consulting and coaching, guys, at the time. And so that amount of money, bro, in one day was just like, dude, like, ads are insane when you know how to use it. But not just ads. The reason why I was closing deals like this at a young age is because I built a brand. And not only that, I built a brand that was specifically helping one kind of person for a few years. Every day, I was consistently talking to that niche. Every single day. And nobody else. And so I wasn't just building a brand. I was being consistent, and I was a specialist helping one kind of person solve one kind of problem with one kind of solution. We call that niching down, and some people, some business owners have like mixed emotion around it. They're like, oh, that's the worst thing you could do. Niching down. Guys, I'll tell you one piece of wisdom I want to expand on is that any business coach or person you hire to mentor you, even if they are exactly where you want to be, they actually don't know what to tell you to get you results. They are telling you what they did to make it work for them. So nobody really knows. But I will say this, there are principles. And so if your business coach is giving you principles and rules to follow, then that's good. That's a good sign. But if that guy's giving you air, he's not giving you tangible things, and it's more motivational crap, then your business coach is a fraud. You should probably find somebody else. And I know this because I've spent over $200,000 alone on coaches. Some of the biggest names. And I'll spend a lot more myself too. I'm not done investing in coaches. I really do believe in having a coach is very important. But I have invested in like the wrong coaches. And you got to be careful, man, because just because somebody's where you want to be does not mean they're the right fit for you, and that they have an operationally fit business that can actually get you a real outcome. So anyways, this video is going kind of long. But so far, learn how to sell, have faith, learn how to market, learn how to build systems and operations. And to be honest, getting to $1 million, you can do it without a big team. You don't need 1 million employees. You don't need 1 million staff. No. But you do need to learn eventually. Like if you want to get to 8 figures, like how to recruit, that becomes the next challenge. And not only recruit, but you have to learn how to build culture. And you got to learn how to lead, which I'm going to make that broken down in another video. But anyways, that's my video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. And hopefully you guys get some value from this.